It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
All right, I've got a question for you from Natasha. She says, I appreciate the financial order of operations and the idea of deferred gratification a lot, but I'm wondering if Brian and Bo feel that doing this can cause folks to be excessively farsighted, always choosing the future over the present. How do you guys balance that?
It's a great question.
Oh, man, I love this one because y'all know that, everybody, if this was on the bingo board, you're going to know, you know exactly the word I'm going to say, because I always talk about the bedazzled basic life is because there is a fine line, Natasha, between being a financial mutant, where you understand where you're going, the goals you have, and you're taking a little bit today to build that great, big, beautiful tomorrow, versus the miser. And the miser is the one that, everybody who goes out to eat with you is like, oh, gosh, is Natasha going to once again make us just do this, or maybe you know who those friends are,
yeah.
And so you don't want, and you also don't want to be the person that gets to be 50 years old and you didn't see any sights, you didn't take any vacations, but yet you have a big pot of money. That stuff that makes me sad in a lot of ways. So when I talk about the bedazzled basic life, I thought it was very interesting. The first time I went to Europe, I was in my 20s, and I did it so cheap. I mean, we were dragging our luggage literally down the cobblestone roads. We were getting ripped off by all the boat taxis and everything else. But that's all turned into awesome memories now that in a lot of ways have blossomed into positive, funny stories. And I still got to do all the big stuff that you hear when people talk about going to Italy and so forth. And so I want to encourage you, even if you are a person who's saving that 20 to 25%, that's why we give you that percentage to be a liberation point. Because if you invest in yourself first, it gives you the opportunity that once you cross that threshold, you can release yourself to actually start spending a little bit of money for your enjoyment. I mean, I think there's a very powerful thing with being let loose to actually enjoy life.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting, and this is going to be a hot take, a lot of folks think that the financial order of operations is a savings plan, is a plan for how you build wealth. It's not. The financial order of operations for financial mutants is actually a spending plan. It tells you at which point you can start spending money the way you want to. Liberation is the perfect word for it. If you're working through the FOO and you hit step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up and you get to that 25% savings, then you can rest assured, you can kick your feet up and say, okay, now I can go spend. I can take that trip, I can buy that thing, I can upgrade, I can go get the coffee, whatever that thing is for you. The financial order of operations gives you the clarity that you don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to have guilt around the decisions that you're making because you know you're making the right decisions first. So, Natasha, if you're someone who feels like FOO is forcing you to be too farsighted, flip the script on that and start thinking, oh no, FOO is telling me what I can do right now. And if I'm not quite at 25%, okay, what do I need to do to get there so that then I can be more short-sighted? I can focus on now because I've already got the future taken care of.
Well, and I want to make sure, because I don't think Natasha's not having a problem with the discipline component, but I do think it's important to feel that pressure while you're younger because you're going to look around, guys. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm amazed at how few of my peers actually took a little bit. That statement is so easy to say, take a little bit today for that great, big, beautiful tomorrow. But you're going to get in your 40s and realize, man, a lot of my peers, they didn't take that little bit of today. They actually were taking all of today. And that's the part you better in your 20s have the pressure, feel like there is something in the background that's looming. Yes, because it is. That forces you to say, hey, I better make it through this process. Exactly like Bo said, that's going to free me, liberate me to actually spend. But there is this ultimate purpose that you better be saving and investing, because the goal is so you can have resources that are working just as hard as you do, so you actually own your time. I mean, I can't emphasize this. I hate it when you're in that stage of your life, and I've been there, Bo's been there, when you're young and poor, where you have to wake up and do every little thing because you need the paycheck.
Yep.
And when
Yep.
because you really are working for the paycheck, you're not liberated to actually make the decisions for what you want to do. The sooner you can be disciplined, the sooner you can feel that pressure and build that great big beautiful tomorrow, you get to be liberated also from you now own your time and you make decisions the way you want to. And what I love about that is you actually, a lot of people are shocked to find this, when you actually make decisions that you want to do, not because you have to do, the abundance cycle pays off. You actually end up usually making more money than you even anticipated. And it's because you have that freedom to make the right decision. So Natasha, it is a tight, you're walking that tightrope. But I want you, and that's why we've given you the system. If you go to learn.moneyguy.com, we do have the financial order of operations. It will liberate you to balance that where while you're young, while you're in that first 10 to 15 years of building up that critical mass of assets, you're staying focused. But then I promise you, if you stay on this purpose-driven and really focus on the financial order of operations, your cobblestone dragging the luggage self from your 20s, that bedazzled basic life, turns into in your 40s where you go, man, I got options. Now, maybe I'm upgrading this vacation. Maybe I'm really pushing the limits here where you're even spending more on travel in your 40s than you made your first year out of college.
Sure.
You can do it, and that's what I want to give you, that inspiration to go out there, but do it in the right way. Don't go do it in your 20s because you want to live that fabulous life, and then you look at your 50s and go, what the heck was I thinking? Because that's the regret.
The sooner you make hard decisions, the sooner you get to make easy decisions. That's the way that it works.
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Let's move on to a question from Restore Sanity Fear. It's his username. Can you address why measurements for spending and housing guidelines are based on gross income when effective tax rates vary with income level? Why not recalculate the percentage based on net income for your rules? And I thought this was good because it gets to the core of, why we give the type of advice that y'all give.
Yeah, Bo, we get this comes up a
Yeah,
good bit.
why do we use
And
gross
it's because
income?
there are some other financial pundits who they always use net numbers. And that sounds good because that comes into your actual checking account after you work and all the withholdings. There is a problem that I've found is that when you use net, there's a lot of stuff that can muddy the
That's
waters.
right.
Can you why don't you walk them through why do we choose gross versus net?
Well, here's a really easy one. You obviously restore sanity fear. Is that
Restore
when your
Sanity
name is too
Fear.
long,
Yeah.
I get distracted because I'm sitting there
I'll
trying
send
to
it
figure
to
out
you.
where did they come up with
All
that
right,
name.
So RSF, here's what I think is why. If you don't talk, if you only talk to financial people, this isn't weird. Now, I want you to go to Publix or the grocery store tomorrow and ask somebody what their net income is. And most folks, they have a hard time coming up with that. Well, you ask someone with their gross income, hey, what's your salary? What do you make? It's a much easier number for most people to recall. Just right off the bat, okay, boom, I know what I make, I know what my spouse makes, I add that together, boom, I got my total household income. The other thing is, your gross income can be affected by all sorts of things that may or may not go into your savings rate or may not. You might have 401k contributions coming out. You may have health insurance coming out. You may have HSA contributions coming out. There are all sorts of things that can affect your net versus your gross. And I would argue that someone who lives in a state with state income tax versus someone who lives in one with no state income tax shouldn't adjust their savings rate just because of that. Same incomes, I'd argue they ought to be saving the same amount of money. It just might be a little bit more difficult for that person who lives in the state income tax state to be able to do that. But why do they need to save that same amount of money? Because if they're going to retire in that state, they're still going to have to pay income tax on state income, even in retirement, even when they have income coming in. So gross number allows you to better mimic in retirement the actual lifestyle that you're living post-retirement. My worry is if you only save and you only base your metrics off of net income, you're going to understate it. Doing gross allows you to be a little bit more conservative, allows you to save up a little bit more, allows you to build up a little bit more over the long term.
Yeah, one of the things I've always liked about using the gross numbers is, and realize I come from a public accounting background, I think it naturally makes me a more risk-averse or conservative decision maker. And when you use gross, it errs on the side of making you save and invest more.
Yep.
But when you look at comparing expenses, because we give the guidance on buying vehicles, when you're buying your housing, if you're using gross on those, it makes you a little more, it gives you some freedom like on the housing with a little bit higher, but it also is one of those things where I think that consistency is never going to let you get yourself in a pickle of a situation.
That's right.
Where, because net is just too muddy, because you can manipulate that net number, whereas gross is easy to recall, and it gives you kind of that baseline. As I hit the microphone, that ought to be
karate
great.
chop to the mic.
It gives you that baseline of what you should be considering without getting muddied up and making it more complicated.
Love it.